Cougar Sports Saturday on a BYU football game day. BYU versus Stanford, week 2. Feels like just yesterday it was BYU and Portland State. I'm telling you, folks, it'll be a blink of an eye, and then before we know it, it's Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we go, where did the season go? It just always happens that way. Once we wait all summer for the first game, and then that first game hits, and then away we go, and every week these days stack up, and we're already at game number 2 for the BYU football season. Mitch Harper, Kyle Ireland. We also got producer Nate Slack and intern Jasmine Poppinga here in studio to give our score predictions for BYU and Stanford. Let's just start with intern Jasmine. Jasmine, what is your score prediction for BYU versus Stanford tonight, 8:15 kick here on KSL?
My score prediction for tonight is got to be 14-48 BYU.
Okay, so you see BYU just putting it on Stanford as they did last week against Portland State.
Nope, I lied. I said 14-45. That's what I think.
Okay,
but I mean, same thing around.
I think Cougar fans would take 45 points in a heartbeat. What gives you the confidence they'll put up a 45 piece on Stanford?
I mean, I don't know. We got to just see. I have not really deeply looked into the Stanford defense, but I'm assuming that we can kind of drill some in. That run game, get that going, get Bear slinging the ball and get some offensive points on the board, and I think Will Ferrin, and maybe we'll get some defensive and special teams points again, as we've seen a lot last year. So I think we have a lot of point-scoring squads on this team other than just the offense.
I like it. 45 points would be a nice day for BYU. Nate Slack, what's your score prediction for tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to take it back to 2008, and that was the last time that BYU had 2 shutouts back-to-back games. They had UCLA 59-0, and then the week after they had Wyoming 44-0. That's
right.
It was a point differential of 103 points to 0 over 2 weeks. They're going to do that again this week.
Ooh.
So I'm going to go 34-0 BYU.
That's not even a bold prediction.
34-0 BYU.
My gosh, you're just going with the score prediction there, huh?
And if you add that with the score last week, that would also again be 103-0. So I'm going to go for 34-0 BYU shutting out Stanford tonight.
34-0. My gosh. I think that I have to give some Stanford, or have to give points to Stanford there. I'm going to say 34-14. I'm going to go same as far as BYU scoring there. I believe that Will Ferrin's going to break BYU's field goal record today, Mitch. I see it coming a week after he ties the record. We're going to have Will in the record books tonight.
I would love that.
34-14.
Ferrin is incredibly confident right now. I mean, his mental state is just in a great place for a kicker, and he's big on that, and I think he's done a nice job in his BYU career. The evolution for Will from where he was, in 2023, where that spring ball where he's missing everything. I'm thinking, man, BYU doesn't have a kicker. I was on this show saying BYU has no kicker, and then he was great, and he's just been fantastic for BYU ever since, and he's, to me, etching his name as the greatest kicker in BYU football history. So I would love to see Will get that record on his own. He tied it last week with a 56-yard boot against Portland State. For me, I'm going to go a modest score. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of keeping my guard up to just brace for any sort of just average performance. But I just don't feel like BYU is going to unleash much in their playbook still. I don't think it needs to. I think if they can do their core plays on this offense, that still gets the job done. And if you don't have to unleash much and still get a win over a power conference team, go do that. I think BYU wins 24-10. I think Stanford maybe tacks on a late touchdown to make it closer than it feels. But I think BYU will be in control of this game. They jump out early, get a nice lead, and BYU has just a solid day. Cougars get the win. I think they do go to 2-0. I'd be surprised, and any of you weigh in on this, Nate, we'll go to you. I would be really stunned if BYU lost this game. I really would. I think it'd have to be catastrophic for BYU mistakes-wise for Stanford to win this football game.
Yeah, I mean, just watching Stanford play against Hawaii, and I know that was 2 weeks ago, and they had some time to work over the bye week and maybe change some things up and throw some different looks at BYU, but I think BYU would have to make a bunch of mistakes, maybe some defensive touchdowns that Stanford's able to capitalize on and that sort of deal. But against the BYU defense, this is a defense I feel like all year where BYU is going to be in every single game they play, and I don't see a scenario where Stanford can even score 14 points, like 2 touchdowns. I don't know. I don't see a scenario where BYU would lose this game.
Yeah, BYU's defense is just really good. And I think that BYU's got one of the best defenses in the Big 12. They were that last year, number 1 in the league. I think what they showed last week, that physicality will carry over. I know the opponent was terrible, but the way that they were playing physically up in the trenches, I thought they were fantastic. And I just thought BYU's defensive line, you brought up John Talmoy-Payao last segment, Keanu Tanavasa, they were excellent in the interior. And I think the edge rushers, and I thought Ephraim Asiata, he brought a nice element in that second grouping of the linebackers. BYU's got depth on the defensive side, and I think that's what's exciting about this group is that the Kellys and Glaskers are going to be awesome, and the Tanavasas. But also, you got depth to turn to those other guys, and give breathers to those stars, and that's a nice luxury for BYU to have.
Yeah, I think BYU is definitely going to be able to lean on this defense to really take a lot of pressure off of their offense from having to score 69 points, 48 points. I don't expect BYU to have to do that to win this game because this defense is lights out. They're so good, Mitch.
Last thing before we put a bow on this show, again, we'll get extended pregame started at 6 o'clock here on KSL News Radio. Get you started for BYU and Stanford coverage. Intern Jasmine, you were in the postgame press conference last week with Bruce Barnum.
Oh, I was.
And he had a nickname for Bear Bachmeier, the Centaur.
Yeah.
Called him a Centaur. Should that stick? Should we start referring to Bear, who's already got a name that's an animal? Should we call him a mythical creature and say he's a centaur now? Should we refer to him as that going forward now?
I mean, I think we got to see how he can really gallop through this D line tonight. If he can do it, then I think it sticks with it. And I think you got to stamp that one on him. That was a great start to it. He's a bear and he's a centaur. Wow,
looking
can
at his
he pick
arms,
one?
looking at his legs.
It's crazy. That was an awesome post-press conference set there. I'll just say that. It was an entertaining one. I'll tell you that.
I have a feeling that Frank Reich, you'll be in that post-game presser. I don't think he's going to have that sort of gem, but he's a good soundbite too. Frank Reich was pretty good. I just have a feeling he's not going to be saying, "Yeah, looked at his legs, looked at his behind, and he's a dang centaur." I was like, "Wow, that he really just said that." He kind of just said the quiet part out loud. He said our inner thoughts out loud. Okay. Thanks, Bruce Barnum. That was good stuff. But I think, are you on board with Centaur, Kyle?
I mean, it was such a great quote and such a good nickname that I hope Bear lives up to it over this season. I do expect Bear to have a nice showing tonight, though, against his former team, if we can even call him that, because, hasn't played a game for him, but was with Stanford during spring ball. I think that'll be fun and a nice element to have, Bear and Tiger facing up against some of their former teammates.
Well, and he made it clear, too, that, nothing but love and respect to Stanford. He probably would have stayed there had they kept Troy Taylor. They have a coaching change, and then you're left in kind of limbo of what's the future going to look like at that head coach position. Get a little bit more stability with BYU, where Aaron Roderick, Kalani Sitake, they're here to stay. And, the timeline moved up significantly quicker. This year was supposed to be kind of BQB number 2. Go compete with McKay and Trayson to be QB2. Instead, now it's QB1. And everything worked out for him, and where he's got the keys of the program in front of him, and it's a lot. You think about it, it's just like a month ago, this guy is just going through fall camp and just a young guy, very quiet, and you kind of see that youthfulness in the way he has his interviews. But now the program is on his shoulders. The spotlight is there. He's getting a car deal. He's getting new NIL deals. It's a whirlwind.
There's a maturity to him, though.
Yes.
With your interview, it was even pointed out there, for a true freshman to play like he did in his, he didn't seem rattled, Mitch, against Portland State.
No.
I expect to see the same kind of thing against Stanford, where it's just the poise that he plays with, the mental makeup that he has, I think, is something that really stands out for me.
And I'm curious to see how much more. I still think, I don't want to say vanilla, but I think the core tenets of the playbook are still just going to be executed where it's not going to be too many new looks, but I think they'll expand a little bit. I think you have to against a power conference opponent.
Watch the Centaur sling it.
But I think that, I'm curious to see how Bear executes some new looks in BYU's offense.
Yeah, and I think part of the thing that gives him confidence in BYU's offense is just his size. He's body beautiful, right? I mean, he's a big body. You don't see that from freshman quarterbacks especially, but he's 6'2", 220, 230. He's ready to take hits, and I think he showed that last week as well.
Yeah, that little bit of a wiggle he had on one of his runs, he can move, and he's a quarterback that's not afraid to take on contact. He's a good player, and I'm curious to see how he continues to improve. That's what it's all about. Just get the win, continue to improve, stay healthy, and that's all that matters, because then you got a bye week, which is kind of crazy. I keep mentally having to remind myself, BYU's got a bye next week, which is so weird this early in the season, but get this win and then enjoy next week, and then you're on the road at East Carolina. But that's going to do it for Cougar Sports Saturday. We will be back tonight, 6 o'clock, with extended pregame for BYU and Stanford right here on the legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.